What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the 20 Percenters podcast. I'm sitting here with Joe Sheehey, the founder of Cured Nutrition. CBD, what's the word?
I mean, we started and people called us a CBD company to begin with. So you were down the right path, but we call ourselves wellness rooted in nature. So nature is where all of our products come from, and this wellness industry that we all live in can benefit from these types of products, cannabis products specifically.
Right. Okay. So is it an extract? Like, educate me on CBD, man.
Yeah. So CBD, cannabidiol, is one cannabinoid out of over 80 cannabinoids in the cannabis plant.
Okay.
CBD and THC are the most widely known. THC gets you high. CBD does not get you high. It has a great calming effect to it. It's a great anti-inflammatory. All the cannabinoids in the cannabis plant outside of CBD and THC have a medicinal or therapeutic benefit to them.
Really?
And CBD is one of them and is obviously gaining massive popularity and traction right now.
Why CBD specifically?
Because
if there's 78 others to choose from, why CBD specifically?
The basically availability in the plant. So the total content of that cannabinoid expressing that gene that is going to increase the amount of CBD or THC in the plant. Those are the two basically most prominent cannabinoids in the plant. So they call all the other ones minor cannabinoids.
Sure.
So there's just not as much in them.
Okay.
But they all have medicinal benefits. CBG is another one that people are looking at. CBN for the sedative effects.
Okay.
But it's just in a lot lower concentrations. Or the cannabinoids like CBN specifically is THC degrading. So THC degrades into CBN. CBN is then when you grow the plant, you're not going to find those CBN contents in it until you cut the plant. The plant's curing. It's sitting in the dark.
Right.
So that's why
it's starting to die.
Some strains, it's starting to die. And so some strains have that more like sedative, heavy effect because they have a higher CBN content.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. All right. How does one find their way into the CBD industry?
Yeah.
You got a really interesting story. So.
Yeah. So how did I find myself? Yeah.
By one, I mean you.
Yes. Because there's a lot of ways to find your way into it right now.
Sure.
I, as we were talking about before the podcast, 7 years ago now, was in my first senior year of college.
Okay.
I took 5 years to graduate, but was losing myself at the time and was drinking and doing drugs and identifying with a group of people that was the main reason we got together.
Right.
We're going to get together and we're going to get messed up and we're going to forget the pains and we're going to forget the anxieties and did we all talk about that? No, not at all. We just got together and partied and we thought we were having a good time.
Right.
But there was a huge loss of identity and self in that for me. And the chasm between self, who I wanted to be and who I knew I was, and who I was every single day was so massive.
Right.
And it pulled me apart. It pulled me into depression. And in addition to drugs and alcohol that caused depression in themselves, I was also having terrible, terrible amounts of social anxiety around, am I enough? Am I doing the right thing? I was studying for an aerospace engineering degree right then. And I was on the doorstep of being hired by Lockheed Martin. And I was like, okay, like this is like, I'm going to have a great job coming out of college. And man, I could mess this all up with one wrong decision right now.
Right.
And I was every single day because I was just forgetting about who I was and what I enjoyed. And I was identifying as this person that partied 5 days out of the week. And it got really bad and I got really depressed and actually suicidal. And I had to get pulled out of Boulder. I had to move home. I had to cut a bunch of people out of my life. I had to restart basically. And as I did that, I got into the fitness world and the competing world, and I wasn't using any marijuana at the time. I had used marijuana through most of college and in high school as well, but wasn't using it very much. And then I was starting to notice it was really tough for me to come home and like relax after a long day at work, prepping for shows, just like having a lot of stuff going on.
Right.
And then I went to the dispensary. I was like, you know what? I haven't used marijuana in a while. I'm going to try it again. And I got home and, you know, would use it and I was able to relax. I was able to calm down from the day. I didn't want to go use alcohol. I didn't want to drink because that, to me, having a history of alcoholism in my family is a slippery slope.
Sure.
And that's the slope that I was on in college. And then I started to talk to more and more people about their marijuana usage and their on the same page, their fitness and their health and their wellness and how they take care of themselves. And seeing more and more people like myself using something that has been stigmatized for so long in a way that was actually just enhancing their life and making them, allowing them to fall asleep, allowing them to recover, allowing them to calm down at the end of the day. I said, you know what? There's something here that more people need to hear about.
Yeah.
And is it through just THC, which we were saying is the psychoactive cannabinoid? I was like, no, I think CBD, as I started to use the oils, 3 years ago now. I was like, that's the way, because not everybody wants to feel that highness that comes from THC, but most people want a sense of calm.
Yeah.
Most people want the ability to reduce inflammation in their body from whatever it may be. We're all human beings. We all have stressors, right? So this is something that can help you. And this is like the introduction to a world that holds so much potential to help so many people. And so I made it my mission 2.5 years ago. I quit my engineering job and I went headfirst into this, and it blew up. It blew up from then, and I knew it would because I put everything that I have into it, and I knew that I could create something that actually had an impact on people. But at the same time, we live in this world where, pharmaceutical drugs are great. We need them. We need them for people that go into surgery. Some people need antidepressants. I had to use those, anti-anxiety medications. Those are all great.
Yeah.
Modern medicine is needed at sometimes, but we also want to look to alternatives.
Sure.
So that's what the past couple of years have been, and we've seen the industry just go crazy, and it's hard to understand.
Yeah. Well, I find just the conversation of alternative medicine interesting in the first place. A couple of 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with adult onset asthma, right? And, I played football in college, was really successful in the Marine Corps, had no problems with PT or anything like that. I've been enjoyed a very fun, intense career in CrossFit for the last 7 years after bodybuilding. And all of a sudden, it's like, what the fuck is going on? If your joints break down or your muscles, you strain a muscle, you blow out your back, like I can acknowledge all of those excuses, but like, what the fuck, what's going on with my lungs?
Yeah, I can't breathe.
Like, that doesn't make any sense. And I go and I do the scrape test. It turns out I'm allergic. I'm all of a sudden allergic to the state of Arizona. Like crazy. And then I go do
everything that's here.
Yeah. And they're like, so they put me on albuterol and all the inhalers and Zyrtec and these anti-allergens and stuff like that, and nothing's improving. And I'm getting, like, it provides temporary relief, so I can go crush a workout or whatever. But now I started to notice I was becoming reliant upon these things, right? And this is like the far end of the spectrum. It's not like I'm getting addicted to painkillers or anything like that. But nevertheless, I was like, I've never had to use this shit before. And now it's becoming a major part of my lifestyle routine. That's not good. Well, when Jeff and I were my partner on my previous podcast, Feed Me, Fuel Me, we had a naturopath, Rachel Hesselbrock, on the show. And so I was like, all right, it's time, now we had a really awesome conversation anyway about alternative medicine, but I'm like, okay, she's a resource. Let me figure this thing out. So she has me do a blood panel, and my body is toxic as fuck. And I'm like, why now? You know, I made it to 33 years old, you know, with no issues. What's the deal? And she's like, well, you know, did anything happen to you like over there in Afghanistan or whatever? I'm like, nah, I didn't have that kind of job, you know? And she's like, but you left the Marine Corps. Inside of 6 months, you did a bodybuilding competition. You started grad school. You opened the gym. You've been running for almost a decade. And now, you know, you're shifting gears. You've got a family. Like I'm to the point now where I'm doing a lot of things I want to do. I'm no longer in that phase of my life where I'm doing a ton of shit that I need to do. Right.
There's a massive difference.
And she's like, now your body's like, hey, you spent the last decade taking care of all this other shit. How about you take care of this? And this is how it's showing up for you. So, you know, we went the herbal route and all of that shit like disappeared. And the one thing that was like the biggest aha, I didn't realize how much sleep I wasn't getting. You know, still
and
able
that's what we're sitting here at the Nutritional Coaching Institute NCI certification, and how many times I've heard sleep come up, I can't even count it. Like it's everything.
Sure. You know, quick pause. Big ups to Jason for allowing us to have this conversation while they're in there just dropping knowledge bombs left and right. You know, what he's done through NCI and IN3 is something to be admired. I mean, I'm extremely impressed with the whole presentation of everything. So appreciate you, Jason, and crew, the IN3 team for allowing us to make this happen. But the sleep thing was huge, you know, and it was amazing to me how much was being left on the table, even though I was like performing at a high level in a lot of phases of life, how much was being left on the table because of my lack of recovery, you know. And it's not like I was having like the nightmare, like all the stuff you hear about PTSD. You know, there's a lot of misconceptions about PTSD, just like there's a lot of misconceptions about CBD.
Yeah.
You know, oh, he's the angry veteran. Like that's not how it was showing up for me. You know, so we go the herbal route, and dude, shit just changed. You know, my wife is like, oh, I really like this version of you.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I stand behind the whole cannabis industry. Obviously, I live in like a corner of it.
Yeah,
but it's a beautiful thing, and it can really help a lot of people. And that's like my biggest ask to anybody that has an opinion on the industry is just understand it a little bit more and be curious about it, and be curious about why you think the way you do.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
Because we learned that somewhere, and is there a reason? Did you have a bad experience with it? Well, then okay. But like, what else?
Sure. And it seems like, you know, as I'm getting to know you in this conversation, above and beyond the medicinal usage of marijuana and CBD and this genre of medicine, you've done a lot of deep work.
Still, yeah, I have, but yes,
know? Yeah. What are some of are you like involved in like NLP and mental and emotional release therapy and stuff like that? Like, have you gone down that road and like seen how far the rabbit hole really goes?
I'm going down it right now, to be honest.
Okay.
And it's tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
Yeah.
I obviously, when I was depressed 6-7 years ago, I was seeing a therapist. I got put on antidepressants right away, and that was not good for me. It made things worse.
Okay. Explain that, because that's supposed to make things better, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to most of the time. It was my choices that I was making. I got put on antidepressants and I was still drinking. So I was making it not work.
Got it.
And I had to make the decision to cut that all out of my life. And through a lot of therapy at the time, I was just like, you know, I would go sit and I would talk to my therapist. I would talk about my insecurities. I would talk about why I show up every single day the way that I do. And at the time, 6-7 years ago, it was like, okay, like let's put the Band-Aid on, you're depressed and we just need to get you better. And so now, over the last year, basically,
like put the Band-Aid on so that we could get to the deep work.
Let's duct tape you so you can get back to life.
Okay.
And now it's, I've built a very successful company that, and I look at my life and I'm like, okay, like I have everything that I believe that I wanted. Right. But still, like, there's this sense of, okay, well, am I happy every single day? And to answer that and to say, well, no, I started to realize that there's some more stuff that I need to work on.
Okay.
And actually see the same therapist that I worked with 7 years ago.
Okay.
Which has been really transformative. I go in and he's like, man, like, let's talk about how you were back then, because you're a completely different person now and you've grown, you've become a lot more self-aware, and you show up in therapy and you say like, hey, I do this, and you own it. Whereas like before I was like, like, I don't have any problems.
Sure.
And it's funny just reading the back of your book and talking about ego, how much that showed up in my life, and how I've learned a lot of my childhood has influenced all of that. Yeah. And so I'm working through all of that right now, man. And a lot of that stuff hurts because we think back to, our 5 to 10-year-old self and the way we started thinking about ourselves at that time, and how that has dictated the rest of my life. Sure. I am a very high achiever. I'm somebody that sounds like exactly like you, that will run myself into the ground I will help everybody around me. I will please everybody around me at the expense of myself. Sure. Oh yeah. And why do I do that? Like, it's the question of, okay, like, if I don't do that, I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. People aren't going to love me. And that's the trap that I've fallen in my entire life. Sure. And a Band-Aid for that, for a lot of people that are like that, is achievement, is success. Like, I'm going to go make the money. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to build the facade. I'm going to help boost my ego. Yeah. Gary Vee said it very clearly on a podcast with Aubrey Marcus. He goes, ego is insecurities with makeup on. And I was like, yeah, like, for sure. And so just, over the last year, recognizing how that shows up in my life and why that shows up in my life and what I'm trying to protect myself from. Yeah. And so I'm in the depths of that right now, man, and checking in with myself. And
it's so crazy. I'm working with Alex Underwood right now. He's my NLP coach. We're doing a lot of like big ass goals for like business, but the first thing we had to work on was me. And it's like, okay, that's a really cool goal, but the most immediate barrier to achieving it is the dumb shit that you were telling yourself every 5 minutes all fucking day. And so we went through an 8-hour what he calls a breakthrough session. It's a mental and emotional release therapy, and the process kind of goes like this. And let me know if you're familiar. Where we get to we identify the 5 negative emotions: anger, anxiety, sadness. Shit.
Is it jealousy? Is jealousy on that?
No. So jealousy is kind of a choice. Yeah. Yeah. Emotions you can't help. Sure. However, and I've learned so much about like this whole thing. Yeah. I'm going to do a 4-day NLP course in December that I'm super looking forward to. But like the shit that goes on in your subconscious is absolutely nuts.
And it's 95% of your mind. I'm reading the book,
the show.
You Are the Placebo by Joe Dispenza right now.
Oh, we were just talking about it.
So 5% is your conscious mind. Conscious mind. 95% is unconscious, like subconscious. Like what? Well, and you don't think that controls your life? It absolutely does.
One of my initial tasks from Alex was to read 2 books. The first one is Narcissism, and the other one is Radical Honesty. And they're great in combination in that in radical honesty, everything that you're running from is what you should be running towards. Is one of the major messages of the book, but also a lot of the things that you think are crazy that kind of suppress your identity is actually what's supposed to be normal.
Wow. Radical honesty.
Yeah.
I'll pick that up.
And then in narcissism, it talks about the scale of, I guess, psychoactive behavior, in that, just putting on the mask and doing the 9-to-5 thing when you're extremely unhappy, but you suppress your happiness to provide. It's kind of like level 1. That's what everybody does. And then the furthest end of it is just the absence of feeling. This is psychopathic behavior. Feeling for yourself and feeling for the absence of feeling for yourself and the feeling for others. And this everything in between. And it just became extremely apparent to me that we all play on that spectrum.
100%. 100%.
But those words are used so dogmatically that if you're on the normal end of the spectrum, it's like, oh, that doesn't apply to me.
Yeah, it's like,
nah, bro, you're totally playing
a
into this shit.
No, actually, we all have a little bit of narcissism. Yeah.
It's wild, man.
And it's okay.
Right.
It's okay.
Exactly.
Let's be aware of it. Yeah. There could be a part where it's a problem, and it does show up as a problem in a lot of people's lives. But yeah, I'm learning all that stuff about myself right now, man.
And it's amazing how one of the concepts that continually comes up in conversation is how the things that protected you at a particular moment in time stuck with you. And are now the same thing that protected you. It is the same thing that's getting in your way.
Yep, it keeps you trapped.
Yeah, so I'm exploring like all that at like the deepest levels right now.
It's a fun ride,
and it's blowing. It'll blow your mind.
Yeah.
In my breakthrough session, I counted. I cried like 7 times.
I believe it.
It's like, because I've been on the personal growth and development train for a long time. And so I was like, oh yeah, like I know that exists, and like I've dealt with that, but when you get into the MER and NLP levels of the deal, it's like, no, we're going to provide context for that block. Like, okay, that's what it is. Good for you. You've asked more questions than most, but there's one more layer. Like, why is that fucking with you? And dude, that shit just had me just.
I believe it.
Blubbering.
I believe it, because it's forgetting everything that you know, or I guess understanding it, but like getting rid of a bunch of protection. Like you think it keeps you safe, just like you're saying, but it also. It did. Yeah. It did, but was that actual safety? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it kept you safe from yourself.
Right. And now,
or at least that's how I interpret it.
Sure. And now it's like, as we go through the deal, I was asked to look down on this particular instance and learn the lesson, throw it away, and move on. Like, you don't have just take the lesson. You don't have to take the experience with you. Like empty the bag, man.
Wow.
So, it's extremely, extremely interesting when you talk about the stories you're telling yourself and how that stuff is manifesting in your life, and now you're diving down that train. Now we're going through this journey together, it sounds like, but you've got CBD in your arsenal. How is that? How does that play in your journey?
Yeah. I mean, I cured the company has been a little bit of, it's been a self-interest. Like we've created products that are for all aspects of your day in life. CBD has a great calming effect to it. So me as an anxious person, I use it quite frequently throughout the day.
Okay.
We've also created other products that are for focus and that are for sleep and that are for topical applications. So I like to be able to sleep. I like to be able to focus because I can get work done. I like to be able to calm myself down, and I like to be able to recover or treat any pain that I have. I can do a lot of that stuff through physical practices, through meditation, through any type of just breathing practice or, journaling and checking in with myself. And that's at the forefront of the company that we've built. That's all important. Sometimes we still need to supplement with things. And so the approach for Cured has been, okay, let's be able to attack all of those pieces of our day. Let's infuse these products in addition to other constituents in the products to create a nature-based wellness company. So we have products that have mushrooms in them as well. So like a lion's mane and a cordyceps blend with some other herbs for focus. For sleep, there's reishi, and then a bunch of other herbs. And then CBD is in both of them. CBD at lower dosages, some people report that it's actually stimulating. So we have it in lower dosages in the focus product, but it also has that calming effect. So it's like creates a very well balanced supplement when you create products. Most herbalists, if they're a good herbalist, will say, hey, like this constituent or this piece of the puzzle that you're putting together, it has a warming effect. And then this one has a cooling effect. And so what you do to create a very well-rounded supplement, depending on what you're looking for, is you try and balance everything out. So CBD is, people can look at it as an adaptogen, but basically it just helps bring your body to homeostasis. So it's something to add into a lot of the things that we already take, if you're using mushrooms or whatever it may be, herbs, just as it's the same thing. It's an adaptogen. It's going to help with our stress response. It's going to help us achieve homeostasis throughout the day. We have an endocannabinoid system that's always been there. Obviously exogenous or phytocannabinoids that are in our products, which just means from outside the body, will help regulate that system. We also have endocannabinoids, which is in that system that has always been there. And now we're just starting to study it within the last 10 years and understanding how many normal bodily functions, sleep-wake cycle, appetite, mood, can be affected by your endocannabinoid system. So let's focus in on that and let's use the products that are almost like the lock and key to that system, right? So yeah, it's been something that I knew 2.5 years ago can be so much more than this Cheech and Chong blanket of what people believe anything cannabis is, right? Help shift a perspective.
For sure. Does the creation of, maybe not even exclusive to CBD, but like does the creation of Cured from an ingredient standpoint, like does that play to your engineering mind?
Oh yeah, 100%. And especially the quality control aspect of it. So anybody that's coming into or has interest in CBD in the industry, you need to understand the quality control, the back end of it. Like, so in the supplement world, most supplements are coming from the same manufacturer. Companies are just slapping a different label on them. What we did was we took it upon ourselves to have our own farm and have partnerships with the extraction labs so we can have an oversight of as much of the process as possible to bring our customers the most high quality product. But then the engineering background of that is through the quality control, the testing, understanding, making sure that there's no pesticides in it, no residual solvents, no heavy metals, or the absence of, or basically safe levels of heavy metals. They can still show up. Somebody yelled at us about that once, but it's like, okay, but like all the rigorous testing that needs to go into just everything, just like our food supply chain, happens in this industry. And that was one thing that myself and my business partner, coming from the engineering world, knew that we could do, because we understand the technology, we understand process control, we understand traceability, and you know, you can have a lot lower margins when you put that much time and effort into things, but we firmly believe that that's going to create a sustainable and viable business in the long run, instead of just trying to make $1 off of something today. So
yeah, I wasn't ignoring anything you were saying. I was just looking, because being in fitness as long as I have, like, the supplement world in its entirety is notorious for these two words, proprietary blend. Like, what the fuck is really in this stuff? That is not the case with Cured. Like, everything on here is listed in its...
We have a blend on there, but I'm not telling you how much it is, because we did the research to say, okay, this is how much of this herb, this is how much of this herb, this is how much of this herb. And that's our IP. But I'll tell you everything that's in that blend. And it's a transparency thing. And that's exactly what I was saying with the quality control is you go to our website, curednutrition.com, you scroll to the bottom, it says Cured Quality Control. You can look at the test results of every single product we've ever released. So you can see the cannabinoid profile, the terpene profile, the absence of pesticides, every single thing for every single product. And consumers, people that are listening to this, people out there in the world that want to try something that has the potential to really help them, deserve to understand and see all of that. Like, you know, are there rules that say that you need to have all that? No, but we put it on ourselves to do that.
No, absolutely. So, I mean, you guys are the first, essentially vertically integrated.
Well, so
close to it.
We used to be. So I didn't say that whole statement was, as we scaled the business, we found a partner farm. So we started off having our own farm, and we're like, okay, so we have it all. And we have minimal resources. So how much goes in? It was all self-funded. We didn't take on investors, anything like that. So to actually have the resource to do all of that is a lot. It's a lot. So we decided that we wanted to find a really good partner in the farming world. So this, as of this year, we're partnered with Sheehey Farms in Pueblo, Colorado. That stands for Sustainable Hemp Initiative. They're an amazing family-run company that has an amazing operation going on down there. We go down there all the time, check it out, see how things are going. Great friends with the director of that company, and it has created a trusting relationship that we can then pass on to our customers. So we absolutely were trying to go fully vertically integrated, but right now it's just like we have the strategic partnerships to do that.
That's awesome, man. The QC, the quality control, is you know, of the utmost importance, and it just speaks to like the lengths that you guys have gone to maintain that. Just speaks to the integrity of not just the company but you.
It wouldn't make me, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I didn't do that stuff, because I'm like, I guess I'm slightly neurotic. I'm always thinking, I'm always like, okay, like, is this okay? Like, I grew up very risk avoidant. I went into aerospace engineering, which is the most risk adverse, like industry that you could ever be in. Like 100% mission success. Like, that's the rule. Like we launched this satellite once and we're not going to get it back to fix it. So that's been my entire life. My dad grew up, you know, very like, you got to get the degree, do the corporate thing, do this, get the benefits. So like the risk, adversity in my life has always been there, and now being an entrepreneur is very risky. But there are some risks of that journey that we can control, and the quality aspect of that was like, okay, that's like.
How is the diving into the family thing, being raised that way? You know, the typical American model as it is today. You know, go to school, get a good job, be safe, right? The entrepreneur thing, especially starting from scratch, as we've done, you know, that kind of bucks that entire system. How's that been? How did your family respond when you were like, hey, I'm leaving my gig and I'm going to go start?
It took a long time. It took a long time. And I was actually, I was starting to break down because I felt trapped. And I was like, you know what, like, I had this idea and it was brewing for like 6-7 months, and I wasn't letting myself own it. Because I was like, oh, like if I talk to my parents about it, if I talk to anybody outside of, you know, of my mind, basically, that's been like, hey, like you worked so hard for the degree and you got the good jobs. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I know that I can do something else, and I actually just want to be able to give that to myself. And there was one point where I was just like, I just need somebody to believe in me. I was telling that to my dad, and he was like, you know what? Like, I know that I've been hard on you. I know I've been tough on you. I know that I am always the one to say, what about your benefits? And what about your health insurance? And like, the what ifs, you know?
Right.
But I had to break free from that. And there have been times where it's been tough, man, to be honest. That's a lot of what I'm working through in therapy, to be honest. But like, there was one point where we had our biggest month in sales.
Yeah.
And I was basically told, like, yeah, your company will be successful one day. And I was like, okay. Like, what about right now? What about right now?
Yeah.
So
it's not successful yet. Like,
no. Yeah. And like, so it's been tough, man. I feel like, you know, there's sometimes that I personally struggle with the sense of like showing, or the need to show that I'm capable. And, you know, is that a family thing? Is that a giving it to myself thing? That's like the stuff that I'm working through. But it was honestly like, they have told me that they are proud of me. And it just took some time. I was like, I want to show you that I can do this. And there was definitely some resistance to it. But there was one point where my bank account was zero and I moved back home. So they were like, you know, like, I wasn't shunned from the family. They're actually huge believers in the cannabis industry. And wanted to be for a very long time, but didn't really like show me that, because I think that's how I was raised, and like marijuana was bad, and like, and it was like, and now I came into the industry, and like my dad is like, he just wants to be retired, because it's like, I want to use it all the time, but he can't for his job, because some products do contain low amounts of THC, and then obviously marijuana specifically, but. Yeah, it's been a journey for sure. For sure.
It's always interesting, man. You know, when you go against the grain, you know, I come from a military family, and both my parents retired with full benefits, right? And my big brother's about to retire, but I have a little brother who fights in the UFC, you know, so that's kind of like paycheck to paycheck, you know, big or little as they may be as they come along, you know, it's like uncertainty, right?
It's scary.
The mentality that we're raised with, you know, runs from uncertainty. You know, stability is where it's at.
Yeah, you got to be certain.
You know, fuck the industry you come from is all about certainty. Like, there should be no questions left to ask.
No,
and
not at all.
That's not the life that we live. You know, and I think that, you know, you're wired for that. You know what I mean? Like you thrive in that.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I'm actually starting to realize more and more that like that piece, so my mentor explains this to me as like, there's the visionary and there's like the business is beginning, then it's becoming mature, and then it's an established business. And I love that beginning piece of it. And now as we get to the established and past, I'm realizing that like, oh, like I thrive in that visionary sense.
The creation phase.
And that's the most risky piece, but it actually allows me to be 100% who I am. And so, yeah, like my mentor's actually writing a book on the entrepreneurial journey, and I can't remember how he actually termed it or what the title is, but it's just like self-development through being an entrepreneur, and like what, like, the times that you feel you're crazy, the times that you feel you're going to fail, the times that you feel you're on top of the world, the times that you don't even know who you are. Like, like that happens as an entrepreneur, because every day you wake up and you basically have life at your fingertips, and you can go create what you want. And we have to remember that that's why we stepped into this world. And for me, I'm like realizing that more and more every single day. And now just like hiring more and more people to come into Cured and do like the day-to-day operations and scale the business to where like I can step back more and more. But that the project and the passion that's gone into this company over the last 2.5 years has been
What a ride, man.
What a ride. What a ride. It's been great though. And we've been helping a lot of people, getting a lot of good feedback.
Yeah.
And making people's lives a little bit better.
Sure. It's interesting when you commit, how many people that you thought might have been resistant, or, spoke one way about the deal prior, and then once you committed and you've established yourself as serious, like how easily they come on board.
Yeah. Actually, I've had multiple people that do that. So yeah, have done that to me. So it's interesting.
Yeah. No, it
can be frustrating.
Sure. Yeah. I remember leaving the Marine Corps and, multiple people asking me, they're like, dude, what do you know about opening a gym? Like, nothing. Like, but I'll figure it out.
Yes.
Like, I know the physical, I know how to do the job, like
and people ask me that about my engineering career, and like, was it all for nothing? Was it all for actually no, because I studied really hard, and as an engineer, I learned how to solve problems, and as a business owner, that's what you wake up to every day is a problem. So how are you going to solve it? So
right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, if you kind of take a step back, and stop comparing apples to oranges, you can totally see, like, especially the phase of the business that you thrive in, how that totally plays to making quality products.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I think the growth that I've experienced through this has also ignited a bunch of growth in every other area of my life. And that's 100%. Something that my mentor says is he's like, as you talk about where you want the business to go and one day exiting the business, like how much of the business is helping you grow as a human being, because there's your personal life and there's your business. And when you're an entrepreneur, it gets cloudy which one's which. But you have to have a personal life, and in that personal life, if the business is showing up and you have conversation around it, relationships around it, and that those are making you become a better human being, making you communicate better, making you a better leader, making whatever it may be. Like, if that's still happening, then you're still getting you're getting a lot from your business, and looking at it that way, rather than just, okay, what's the return on investment? What am I going to get when I exit from this company? Looking at it from a personal growth standpoint has been, it's been grounding for me, because there are times where I'm like, I don't know, like, what's next? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'll figure it out.
Sure.
And I've learned myself and understood myself a lot more through this journey. So
yeah. That's massive, dude. That's massive. For all the 20%ers out there, where can we go and support you and Cured?
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. So Cured Nutrition on Instagram. That's where we got a big community, and curednutrition.com. You can check all the products there. We ship nationwide. Should be there in 2 to 3 days, depending on where you are. And then myself, my Instagram is Joseph Sheehey, full name on Instagram, last name Sheehey. And I talk about a lot of the stuff that we just talked through through my content. I've taken a little bit of a break the last couple of weeks just to like step back, but I love connecting with people on Instagram and having people share their story with me, and seeing that we're all on this same human experience journey, and none of us are alone. So
that's the best part, man, is that discovery that you're not in it by yourself, and you're not the only one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking time, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, brother.
We got to connect.
For sure. I don't think it's the end of this conversation.
No, definitely not. I'm looking forward to crossing paths with you again. And, for everybody, for all my 20%ers out there, make sure you go support everything about Cured and Joe's mission. And remember, focus on the things that matter: health, wealth, relationships, and time. We'll do it again. Later.